Hi, my name is Paul and welcome to the Learning Net. Okay, in this video we're going to talk about the configuration modes on your routers and your switches, your iOS configuration modes. Okay, so let's get started. There are four configuration modes: the user exec mode, the privilege exec mode, the global configuration mode, and the sub-configuration mode. These are the primary four main configuration modes that you find on your devices today. Okay, the user exec, well, that's what it looks like when I first log into the switch or the router. In this example, obviously it's a router because it says it's a router. And that name really is the host name. If I don't set the host name, it will say router. Okay, and that is followed by the greater than sign. And this is where you can only do some basic show commands. You can't do any configuration commands. In fact, you can't really do much to the router from this level. So who has access here? Well, you need to get into here to get into your enable mode, or your privilege exec mode, sorry, and you also need to, you probably give your first line access to the user mode, because they can do some basic troubleshooting from here before they escalate it to second and third line support. Okay, so from here, to get to the privilege exec mode, you'd have to type in the words enable, followed by a password, no doubt. And this is why the privilege exec mode is also known as the enable mode, because you type in the word enable to get there. Okay, and what will I see? I will see router followed by the hash symbol, and the hash symbol represents I am now in the privilege exec mode. This is where I can obviously go into my configuration and my other modes, but I can do all my show commands, I can do my debug commands, I can do some basic configuration commands such as setting the system's clock. I could also edit all my file systems, copy and transfer my file systems, upgrade my iOS, etc., etc. So the privilege exec mode is obviously where you will be as a network engineer. From there, I can type in exit or disable to take me back to the user exec mode, or I can type in configuration T or configure terminal or conf T, whichever you prefer. Conf T is obviously the shortest way to get me into the global configuration mode, because that is where I'm going to configure my device from. Okay, so what does it look like once I am there? Well, it says the host name, which in this instance is router, and then in brackets config, followed by the hash symbol, which means I am in the configuration mode. This is where I could enter the question mark, and it'll give me all the parameters and all the bits and pieces that I can configure for this particular device. If I happen to choose one of them, in this instance, if I were to choose an interface, interface FA0/1, that would then take me into the sub-configuration mode for that particular interface. Or if I typed in Control Z or exit, I would then go back to the privilege exec mode. So let's say I've typed in interface FA0/1. I would then see on my router, I would see the host name, which in this case is router, followed by config-F, which stands for the sub-configuration mode of an interface. Okay, and this is where I can now set the parameters for this interface. And typically this is where I would set the IP address, etc., etc., and enable that interface. Okay, if I were to go into my line console, which is how I log into the device via the console port, I would have to type in from the global configuration mode, which is router brackets config. There I would type in line con 0, short for line console 0. That would then take me into sub-configuration mode of the line. And that would be router brackets config-line. And that's where I would set the password for the console port, where I can set some additional parameters. Okay, and one of the other modes, we're not going to go to all of them, of course. One of the other ones could be I could type in a routing protocol that I might want to configure. So in this example, let's say I typed in router config while I was in configuration mode. I then typed in router EIGRP followed by a number, let's say 100. I would then go into the router brackets config-router mode, which is the sub-configuration mode for that particular routing protocol. Okay, so obviously wherever we see router, that represents our host name. Whenever we see a hash, that represents we are in a privilege mode of some sort, be it either global or sub-configuration mode. And whenever I see the greater than sign, that means I can't really do much, and as a network engineer I need to go a little bit further if I want to troubleshoot or configure this device properly. Okay, well, I'd like to to get out of the sub-configuration mode, I would have to type in exit, of course, to take me back to the global config. I almost jumped the gun then. Or type in Control Z, and that will take me all the way back to the the privilege exec mode. Okay. Well, I hope that's been informative for you. I'd like to thank you for your time and sincerely hope you choose a Learning Net as your IT training center of choice. Thank you.